Why do Buddhist monks shave their heads and wear orange clothes? What secrets do ancient Tibetan monks keep? Why do they stand in the lotus position for hours without moving? What is the significance of the mountain Kailash in Tibet? What is the hidden secrets of Shambhala? In this episode we travel to Tibet, the homeland of the Tibetan people, the roof of the world in Central Asia. Home to the largest mountains in the world, with an average altitude of 4,900 meters, Tibet has been home to an ancient civilization for thousands of years. Buddhists have always sought peace in these mountains, but what did the Nazis look for in Mount Kailash? With high mountains, rivers, fertile soil and rich mineral deposits, Tibet offers a very rich outlook, but the Tibetan monks who live here and stand out with their orange clothes can spend the whole day with a few glasses of water and a slice of bread. The word Buddha, which means to become conscious, to enlighten, to awaken, to realize, in Sanskrit, forms the basis of the thousands of years of philosophy here. This is how the story begins. Legend has it that a monk saw a sick and decaying body with a high fever and decided to find a way out of all this suffering. At the age of 29, when a young man named Siddhartha Buddha gave birth to his only son, he left his son and his wife in the city where they lived, left the city and set out to find a way out of suffering and pain. He sets out with high hopes and spends 6 whole years on the path. For 6 years he wandered like an ascetic in the Ganges Valley, met with famous religious leaders of the time, carefully followed their methods, slept a few hours a day, practiced asceticism, but after a while he realized that these religions and their knowledge were not for his purpose and gave up. He gives up 6 years of labor with a decision he made one night. After giving up what he had learned for 6 years, he began to search for his own path, primarily through meditation techniques. Other religious teachings were too extreme for the 35-year-old Buddha. His own teaching and meditation method is actually a technique for finding the middle way in all kinds of problems. The young Buddha, who is estimated to have been born in 563 BC, becomes famous in the region with his teachings and techniques. He is now a spiritual leader, a wise teacher. His teachings were compiled and written down by his disciples who came together as the Sangha community just before his death. Buddhists are guided by these teachings. The Buddha, who is believed to have died in 483 BC, left behind many secrets. He spent his life searching for the truth between life and death with a calmness that pushed the limits. Immediately after his death he was sanctified, recognized by Buddhists all over the world as the awakened Buddha with great secrets. Buddha is considered sacred in many religions. The Baha'is consider him a prophet, although some Hindu texts accuse him of apostasy. Born in what is now Nepal, Buddha was the son of the king of the Sakya tribe. According to some, the reason for his rebellion was the splendor and extravagance of his father's court ceremonies. So he went into seclusion, leaving behind his home, his children and his wife. A life of plenty and abundance bored him and he went and lived in poverty. Buddha had everything in the palace, next to his father the king. In fact, away from all the problems of the world, he literally had everything. His father wanted him to be king too. He did not allow his son to wander far from the royal palace, lest he see old age, sickness and death on the streets. But the Buddha realized that wealth and luxury brought no happiness, that people suffered and that his previous life was meaningless. Buddhism, which originated in India, is today a religion with more than 500 million followers around the world. It first emerged in India and then spread over time in Southeast and East Asia, in countries such as China, Japan, Korea, Mongolia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Tibet. Believed to explain the sources of pain, suffering and dissatisfaction in life and to show ways to eliminate them, the main framework of Buddhism's teachings is meditation. In these unique moments, Buddhists experiment with methods of introspection. The Tibetan king Srongtsen Khampo, who ascended the throne in Tibet in the 7th century AD, also embraced this religion. Thanks to the king, this belief system spread to the majority of the population. The worship of nature, self-restraint and moral values are the foundations of the Buddhism system. Tibetan Buddhism, according to the grouping of today's scholars, is considered as Northern Buddhism and has believers in many countries, especially Tibet, Mongolia, Bhutan and India. Those who followed in the footsteps of Prince Buddha, those who embraced Buddhism, began to live like him. Tibetan monks who wanted to gain enlightenment and wisdom like the Buddha came to the fore in this teaching. Buddhist monks wear different garments, ranging from the saffron robes worn by monks in Sri Lanka and Thailand and the robes worn by Tibetan lamas to head scarves. The saffron robes worn by monks last for centuries. Buddhists chose orange partly out of necessity. Because orange was the only paint available at the time and they decided to continue using that color. With the exception of Tibetan monks who used burgundy, Buddhist followers in many parts of Southeast Asia stuck with orange and it remains the color of choice today. As a prince raised in a palace, the Buddha actually hated splendor. The robes worn by Buddhists symbolize a detachment from materialism and a bit of ostentation. Monks also shave their hair as a symbol of the separation of simplicity and materialism. The Buddha is thought to have worn a modest robe made of patched clothes donated by people during his lifetime. Many surviving statues, paintings and carvings of the Buddha show him wearing a robe draped loosely over his body, usually with the right side of his shoulder open. However, due to climatic and geographical factors, the robes worn by Mahayana Buddhist monks varied considerably. The monks wore beautifully embroidered silk robes. However, the majority of monks, many of whom came from Japan, China and Korea, wore simpler robes with a simple collar that hung around the neck. For thousands of years, the clothes of Buddhist monks were made according to strict codes that stipulated the smallest details, both sewing and alteration or repair. The monk has only one suit, and any part of it can only be replaced if it has 10 patches. According to some beliefs, orange was chosen as the color that symbolizes the religion of Buddhism because it is the color that carries and attracts the most energy. Let's share one more important fact about orange robes. The original monks obtained their robes from piles of garbage. These monks collect discarded fabrics. After washing the scraps thoroughly, they boil the cloth with herbal substances such as certain leaves, roots and flowers. Spices are also said to be added to give the cloth an orange color. Today, 450 million Buddhists do not practice Buddhism with such strict rules. In some countries, such as Western Europe, America and Australia, a new Buddhist sect, Zen Buddhism, has gained traction in followers. In this fast-growing religious movement, many Buddhists living far from Tibet do not shave their heads. From the outside, Buddhism appears to be a religion of peace, motivation and serenity, but Buddhist monks are devoted to their religion, excluding themselves from worldly affairs and not believing in the lies of life. The reason why they shave their hair is because they want to keep a low profile. The Buddhist code of ethics has 5 basic principles. They include refraining from taking life, not stealing, refraining from sexual misconduct, refraining from lying, and abstaining from intoxicants. Accepting the 5 precepts is part of both joining Buddhism and practicing Buddhist devotion. The precepts are not designed as mandatory commandments to be followed, but rather as educational rules to be accepted and followed voluntarily by the people, making it easier to practice. Tibetan monks, whom we have seen in many historical fiction films, became popular through cinema. Their fame, which spread around the world through cinema, brought them an even greater commitment to Buddhist philosophy. As they became famous, they never left the road. Tibetan Buddhist monks, who became the subject of research as their fame grew, were the focus of some scientific studies. They were found to have abilities that went beyond normal parameters. Herbert Benson was a cardiologist and a renowned professor of medicine at Harvard University. In the 1960s he spent a lot of time studying Eastern cultures. The timing was good because the subject was of concern to some people at the time. So he waited until midnight to take 36 Tibetan monks into his laboratory. Benson wanted to see for himself how much myth and how much reality there was in the stories people told about Tibetan monks. But beyond that, abstract meditators were seen as possessing superhuman qualities. After all, Benson was a scientist, and he didn't believe in anything that science couldn't prove. What he discovered that night changed his life forever. In fact, 3 years later, he wrote a book that later became a bestseller. It's called The Relaxation Response. When it became a bestseller, he created an alternative form of medicine. He was someone who said that faith can be cured because the placebo effect has a high healing power. What Herbert Benson and his team found was that Tibetan monks had abilities that contradicted science. For example, a group of Tibetan monks practicing yoga with the Tummo technique could lower the temperature of their hands and feet by as much as 17 degrees. So far, no scientific explanation for this phenomenon has been found, but Harvard Gazette investigated this and several subsequent experiments. Tibetan monks can allegedly raise their body temperature to the point of drying a wet sheet with their bodies. Not only that, Benson also found that advanced meditators using the Sikkim technique can slow their metabolism by up to 64%. According to research, Tibetan monks were experts in having the dreams they wanted, deep dreaming and waking consciousness. In 1971, Daniel Goleman, the creator of the concept of multiple intelligences, wrote an article. It suggested that the monks may have had a fifth state of consciousness. The research made Tibetan monks increasingly popular. Those who exaggerated the situation even claimed that Tibetan yogis and monks could remain motionless and levitate for several hours. But no evidence has ever been found that this is true. Research has shown that Tibetan monks can produce the same brain waves in sleep as when they wake up. It was also claimed that one Tibetan monk's heart voluntarily stopped pumping blood for 17 seconds without stopping beating. Although the research was widely exaggerated in some media outlets, the Tibetan monks went on with their lives. Their fame, which quickly spread to the modern world, and blockbuster movies did not deter them from the lotus position. So what was the secret behind their meditation in the lotus position? Buddhists are truly intriguing with their teachings, thoughts, and lifestyle. Robert Piper, who has been interested in meditation for many years and received serious training on this subject, lived with Buddhist monks in Asia for nearly 9.5 years. Piper shared what he learned and experienced in his writings. The most important lesson he learned was to try something many times before giving up. The monk said that if success is not achieved after several attempts, then the perspective and approach to the situation needs to be changed. The men in orange have this outlook on life: if you don't stop trying, you will eventually get to where you want to be. Tibetan monks spend most of their time in prayer and meditation, and it is impossible to go on a tourist trip and learn their secrets directly. Tibetan monks live in closed monasteries and don't talk much to earthlings. But sometimes travelers manage to settle as guests in the monastery and observe the monks' way of life. Tibetan monks start and end the day with prayer. Monks play sports, work, eat right, do not get angry or swear. The pomp and extravagance that Buddha rebelled against while living in the palace is also the rebellion of Tibetan monks today. Tibetan monks always diet, do not overeat, follow the rule of separate meals, do not mix proteins and carbohydrates, and eat slowly and in small portions. Written sources say that Tibetan monks did not eat meat and preferred only plant foods, as well as butter, cheese, dairy products, and eggs. Is it possible to live long with such a system? There is also a secret hidden in the lotus pose of Tibetan monks, who ate healthy and withdrew from worldly affairs, which spread all over the world. Do not do this movement without the help of an expert. We will talk about the benefits of the lotus position in a moment. First, let's talk about the lotus position technique step by step. Sit on the floor with your legs straight. Bend your right knee and pull it towards you, and place the right ankle on the left groin with the help of your hand. The sole of the foot should point upwards as much as possible. Place your foot firmly on the groin line. Bend the left knee in the same way, pull it towards you, and place the left ankle crossed over the right groin. The sole of the foot should point upwards. Place your foot firmly on the groin line. If you cannot, place it diagonally on the floor and do not force it. Place your hands on your thighs with the thumb and index finger together, palms facing upwards. Let yourself flow in a calm and peaceful way, relax and begin to breathe in and out naturally through the nose. Keeping your eyes closed will help you move more quickly into the state you want to enter, but it is not essential. The lotus pose is an excellent pose, but not everyone can do it on the first try, and this is normal. People who are used to it can use it in their daily meditation, but beginners should use the one that suits them and doesn't strain their knees. At first it is enough to stay in lotus for a few seconds. Lotus is also a double-sided pose. In your practice, work with both legs alternately. Add a few seconds to your sitting time each week. It is best to work with the support of a yoga or meditation instructor. Let's talk about the benefits of the lotus position. Buddha practiced this sitting thousands of years ago to relax his mind. Lotus sitting is believed to open the body's energy channels, the chakras. It improves the flexibility of your hips, knees, and ankles. It allows you to stand more upright, straightens your spine. Improves your posture. It is good against sciatica and menstrual irregularities. Ancient scriptures mention that the lotus pose eliminates all diseases. Lotus is physically a concept in the life of Buddhists. But what about Mount Kailash? Mount Kailash in Tibet has a significance. Mount Kailash is the mountain that forms part of the Trans-Himalaya in southwest Tibet. Mount Kailash is considered sacred in Bon, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism. There is a mystery that this mountain has never been conquered. Is it the Indus, Brahmaputra, Sutlej, and Karnali rivers located near Kailash that add mystery to this mountain? Or is it because, according to Hinduism, Kailash is the home of the god Shiva and his wife? At 6,714 meters high, Mount Kailash is covered in snow every day of the year. That's why in Tibetan, it is called the snow jewel. According to Buddhist belief, Kailash is a mountain that forms the axis of the earth. To purify their souls, followers of Buddhism, Hindu, Jain, and Bon religions circumambulate Mount Kailash. Buddhists who come to Mount Kailash in Tibet immediately crawl on the ground. Standing is forbidden. Those who pray on the one hand and crawl to the monastery inside the mountain on the other hand fulfill a kind of pilgrimage. Buddhists have always sought peace on this mountain, but what did the Nazis seek on Mount Kailash? In the 1930s, Nazi leaders began exploring Tibet, searching for ancient mythological and religious beliefs there. One of the reasons for this was to explore and discover the origin of the Aryans, which was part of the Nazis' racist ideas. The Aryan race means the superior race. According to the Nazis, Germans were descended from the Aryan race. Of course, this was not the only reason the Nazis were in Tibet. The Nazis also searched for a long time for Shambhala, the legendary lost city of kings. Shambhala is a secret city that is claimed to exist in some traditional Tibetan Buddhist teachings and other mystical beliefs. According to these beliefs, Shambhala is located in Tibet or the Himalayas and contains important secrets of higher wisdom, divine knowledge, and the salvation of humanity. The discovery of these secrets has intrigued many people. Of course, it was also of interest to Nazi Germany, which wanted to gain the upper hand in the war. Evidence of the Nazis' quest is provided by their expeditions in Tibet and the Himalayas in the 1930s. These expeditions aimed to strengthen Germany's links with Tibet and to conduct scientific research. However, according to some sources, Nazi leaders searched for Shambhala during these expeditions. According to some researchers, an even more interesting claim has been made. The Nazis lost the Battle of Stalingrad in 1943. The interesting thing is that, according to Hitler, the reason for this defeat was that Shambhala could not be found and the divine knowledge within it could not be accessed. Moreover, some sources claim that the SS organization collaborated with monks in Tibet to gather information about Shambhala. The subject of the lost city of Shambhala is a very deep subject that goes back to the origin of the human races. We will do a detailed study on this subject in the future. Let us continue with our topic. Some scientists claim that Mount Kailash is not a mountain but a giant pyramid. All other small mountains are red pyramids, so it turns out that this is a real pyramid system, much larger than any mountain we have ever known. Indeed, Mount Kailash looks very much like a big pyramid. Do you think Mount Kailash is a pyramid from ancient times? We are waiting for your comments. When the Russians built a facility to explore space on this mountain, the attention of the world's intelligence services turned to this mountain. In fact, the rumors spread so much that the claim that there is a tunnel in this mountain that can travel in time has also spread from ear to ear. The time tunnel near Kailash was confirmed but not proven by many monks and Buddhists. Following the rumors, a group of researchers who went to Kailash approached the mountain and started making Kora. Kora is a sacred walk around the entire mountain. Those who do the Kora are believed to be completely cleansed of the bad karma accumulated throughout life. Thus, in about 12 hours, all the participants in the Kora aged as if 2 weeks had passed. Hard to believe but true. In just 12 hours of walking, the beards and fingernails of all the participants grew incredibly long. This has led to a mystery of biological activity on Mount Kailash. Was the rapid growth of beards and nails a sign of time travel? Mount Kailash is estimated to be at least 20,000 years old. According to the religions that worship the mountain, touching its slopes with your foot is an unforgivable sin. It is said that many who tried to break this taboo died as soon as they set foot on the mountain. The mysteries and secrets of Mount Kailash do not end. What kind of mysteries are there inside the mountain? According to another claim, there are eternal resting places inside the mountain connected by tunnels. The most important people in human history, prophets, scientists, important thinkers are waiting in the lotus position inside the mountain. It is even said that examples of all the races that have lived throughout human history are in the caves inside this mountain. It is also claimed that when the day comes, these bodies, which are believed to be in a meditative state in the lotus position, will wake up from deep sleep so that the human race can continue. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Do you think these claims could be true? Could Tibetan monks actually know the whole truth? What are their secrets and what steps would humanity have to go through to access these secrets? These questions have been asked for thousands of years and will probably not be answered anytime soon. So, what are the secrets of the monks who enter a state of meditation and are found years later with their bodies intact? The mummified remains of a meditating monk in Mongolia's Sanjinakerkan province were found about to be sold on the black market, with some experts claiming that he was not actually dead and was very close to becoming a Buddha. The 200-year-old, perfectly preserved remains are still under forensic investigation. One expert insisted that the mummy was actually still in deep meditation and in a very rare and special spiritual state called tukdam. This means that the mummy is not dead and is one step away from becoming a real Buddha. There is also strong evidence that there have been many similar events in past history. A Buddhist monk named Dorzo Atijalov lived from 1852 to 1927. According to legend, a few seconds before he died, the monk called his students to him and announced that he was dying. He invited his students to meditate together and willed that his body be buried the way he died, to be exhumed 30 years after his death. He takes the lotus position and dies in meditation. Atijalov was buried in the lotus position, just as he had willed. Only in 2002, 75 years after his death, was his body exhumed. After exhumation, it was observed that his body was perfectly preserved and intact. This caused great astonishment both in the scientific community and among religious leaders. According to Buryat Buddhism, Atijalov's body is a living Lama. Therefore, his body must be treated with special respect. The body of the monk Dorzo Atijalov is still on display in the Buddhist monastery of Ivolginsk Datsan in Buryatia. This monastery is visited as a holy place among Buddhists. In Tibet, temples and caves are still inhabited today by clergy who live in a kind of seclusion. These men, who do not worry about how to pay the bill, how to upgrade the model of the car, where to go for vacation next summer, continue to follow in the footsteps of Buddha in this region. History continues to keep many secrets successfully. What do you think? Would you get rid of all your worries and switch to such a lifestyle? We are waiting for your comments. If you liked our video and want to support our channel, please do not forget to follow, press the like button and share the channel link with your friends. Goodbye and see you in the next video.